to just walk you through the weather that we're expecting in New South Wales over the next couple of days. So what we're seeing is the formation of a coastal trough off the New South Wales coast. We know these are quite dangerous systems and they've been known to produce some widespread flooding in the past, and that's certainly on the cards for the next few days. That coastal trough is deepening. We're seeing some increase in showers at the moment, and we're expecting that those showers to increase tomorrow through Sunday and into Monday and develop into widespread areas of persistent rain, which will be heavy at times, and certainly there'll be a response in the rivers as a result of that rain. Looks like the focus area firstly will be around Sydney and the Illawarra tomorrow. So we're expecting some locations over the next few days and even tomorrow could see what they would normally see in the entire month of July, all in one day. So certainly heavy rainfall, and there'll certainly be impacts from that starting tomorrow. So the rainfall leading to riverine flooding, flash flooding. We know that the landscape's quite vulnerable at the moment, and the water can move very quickly down the slopes and through the waterways. So flash flooding, riverine flooding, and also landslips. This system is starting to form now. It's still early days, and the computer model guidance will get a better handle on it once it's formed. But our guidance is pointing towards this being a prolonged event. So increasing today, increasing further tomorrow around the Sydney and the Illawarra, and then on Sunday increasing further as we see a potential east coast low form on Sunday. We do have already, we've issued warnings for this system. So there is a flood watch out which highlights a few catchments of concern, and I might just read through a few of those right now. So the catchments that we're concerned about stretch really from Newcastle through down to Batemans Bay, but that area in the middle, so the Sydney and the Illawarra coast, that's where the short term, the risk starting from tomorrow is. But the catchments, they include the ones in the Newcastle area, the Central Coast, Lake Macquarie, Upper Nepean, the Hawkesbury and the Lower Nepean. The flood watch is what our hydrologists are seeing is the rain is potentially enough to cause major flooding there again, which will be the third or the fourth time in the last 2 years for those communities. The Upper Coxes, which is in that area as well, the Colo, the McDonald, flash flooding more generally across Sydney, the Illawarra and the Shoalhaven areas, the Cooks River, the Georges and the Warrenora, and the Shoalhaven. So I'd be recommending that residents between Port Stephens and Batemans Bay keep on top of the warnings. I have a look at the flood watch in particular, but over the course of the next few days, if you could keep on top of the warnings, that'll help you out. We know these systems are dynamic, they rapidly evolve, and our warnings and our forecasts, they get updated as new information comes to light. So where can you find the information? The information is always on, it's pretty easy to find through the Bureau's webpage. There's a link, the New South Wales warnings, top left-hand side. The information's available on the app. The Bureau's app's recently been upgraded to include push notifications. So you can enter the location that you live in, and the warnings will pop up on your phone as they're issued. And again, we're really recommending that the community pay attention over the next few days. As this system develops, we possibly see an east coast low, but regardless, we'll see the rivers respond. So I might just leave it there and hand over to Commissioner York, who can take you through some of the preparedness actions the community can take.
Thanks very much, and thank you. So we've been working very hard with the Bureau of Meteorology in the last 48 hours in relation to their forecast for this weather event. It is significant, as has been outlined, and we want to make sure that the community are prepared for what might come over the next few days. As stated, our dams are very full, the land is saturated, the rivers are full, so this significant rain event could have some major effects across the communities as outlined from Batemans Bay to Port Stephens. So we're preparing already, getting community messaging out to let the community know if they're in some of these areas of risk and what they should do, and to be ready. So I'd remind the community to keep up to date with those messages that we're putting out, particularly also about preparation. It's important to prepare for these events, and we've seen that a lot of people have experience in these areas of previous floods, but I don't want people to be complacent because their house or business has not been affected in the past. Doesn't mean that it might not be affected through these forecast rain events that will go over a number of days and have an impact on those areas of the catchments across the east coast of New South Wales, from Port Stephens down. It's important to look at information on the SES website. So there's lots of information about how you can prepare both your household, your properties, rural properties and businesses in relation to this forecasted event. It's important to have an emergency kit ready to go with your important documentation, identification, things of value that you want to pick up and have in a secure location in your house that you can grab and go. If you're a landowner, it's important also to think about your animals. So it might be opportune now to start thinking about where you would move them to higher ground, or can you place them in a location of safety so that they're not at risk and you're not doing it at the last minute. It goes also for domestic animals, so that if you are going to be away from your home, that you have contacts with someone who can go and help those animals and help you where you can't get back to your property. It's important also in relation to the preparation around your home, the identification of the risk that you have. So have a look, as I say, onto the New South Wales SES website to be prepared. There will be, if required, evacuation centres set up as we need them across any of these areas. But it's also important to think in this time when we're thinking about individuals' health, with the flu and COVID still around, that you look at whether you can go to family and friends and make those plans now and reach out and contact them and make sure you know where to go. So this weather forecasted event now is across the school holidays period, which starts today, and we know that there will be a lot of people planning holidays and planning to move around the state of New South Wales. It's important to remember that in these areas that are at minor to major flooding, depending on where they are, that those low-lying areas will be significantly affected, such as caravan parks and camping grounds. And so be safe and do your investigation of where you're going to go, how you're going to get there, and whether it's safe to go at all. So really think about the safety of you and your families. We don't want people to travel on the roads during these heavy days of rain if they are placing themselves at risk, and so think about the travel that you might have to do across any of these locations. There's information on the Bureau's site in relation to the forecast, and just to remember that it changes, and it can change quite significantly in a short period of time depending on where the rain falls, how heavy the rain is, and how consistent over a lengthy period of time it is. And we've heard from the Bureau that we're expecting rain across till at least Tuesday, and we're still looking out to what's happening in the middle of next week and later in the week. So the accumulation of heavy rainfalls over a number of days will have a different effect on the flow of rivers, a different effect on flash flooding, which was, by its name, can come very quickly and be very unexpected and can affect our community members. So the main message from the SES is for people to think about their own safety and the safety of their family and friends. If you have people who are isolated in these communities, normally in the community, and they need to have assistance, reach out now, make those plans whilst you've got the time to do it before an event comes. And before, as often happens, it comes in the middle of the night when people least expect it. We will ensure that we put out as much messaging as possible in relation to the effects that the Bureau's forecast of the rains will have on those communities, so that you are well prepared and can move quickly if you need to. And I'd say to the community, please take heed of the warnings that we will no doubt issue over the coming days, and if we give an evacuation order, please evacuate, and evacuate quickly, because I can't always have an SES vehicle or our partner agencies able to access. Roads get cut off very quickly. It's dangerous out there in the weather, and we want to make sure that you make those decisions very early, because you will place yourselves at risk and you will place my volunteers and emergency services at risk as well. So a lot of important messages. Keep in touch. Make sure often during these events there's significant breakages in our communication systems. Make sure you have a radio, make sure it's got batteries, so that you can listen to these key messages that are going out, and particularly in those areas that get cut off. Start to supply with your groceries. You might be at higher ground, but you might not be able to access out to towns to get your provisions. And so think about it early. It's better to be prepared and not be placed at risk. It's better to leave your home if we evacuate, ask you to evacuate, and go back and find everything has been untouched, than to be stuck there and be calling for assistance. So in preparation, we're putting on extra call takers. If you need assistance from the New South Wales SES, and we work with all our other emergency service partners, ring 132 500. But if it is life-threatening, ring 000. And that way we will try and make sure that the community is safe, that you are prepared, and that we can help you when you most need it. So I'll just open up for questions now.
Commissioner, this is obviously going to be triggering for those residents who have gone through several flood events already this year. What do you say to those people that must be feeling the exhaustion of having another, big event coming their way?
Yes, look, it's very, it's an anxious time for our community members. It's an anxious time for emergency services and police and other agencies as well, knowing that we may be called on to help these community members. They have experienced floods before. It is tiring. There's certainly the weather events that we've seen over the last really 2 years of continual flooding in some of these areas really affects the community, and it affects the economy of the community, but particularly the safety of those residents as well. So, I can't stress strongly enough the need to prepare and be ready, but also to not assume that because you weren't affected in the last record flood, particularly around the Hawkesbury and Nepean, but in these other areas that are at risk, that you may not be affected this time. Don't assume. As I say, it's better to leave if we do an evacuation order, or leave if you just feel unsafe and you want to be somewhere with other family, friends, and on higher ground. It's really important for them to make safe decisions.
And is this system, I suppose, made worse by the amount of rain that we've already had in terms of, the amount of our river capacities and our dams? Is this then making this system worse?
It does make it a greater risk to the communities, and I'll hand to Jane if she wants to add something to that. But, over the last 3 years since the drought ended, the 2019-2020 bushfires, we've had significant rain, and the saturation levels of the ground is an added concern for us. So not only do you get the riverine flooding, the flash flooding, but you also get the trees are unstable. That creates another risk, particularly around the home or on the roads. Landslides are a risk as well. We've just seen the opening of some of the roads around Kangaroo Valley from the last floods in February, March, where those communities were cut off. So we anticipate there's a higher risk of landslides, and particularly hazardous surf conditions. And anyone who wants to go out in the water, should really look at the weather forecasts and see the dangers that they may be confronting. And if in doubt, don't go out.
And do you anticipate that evacuations will be ordered?
Well, we prepare for that anyway, so we always try, where possible, and it's not always possible, to give evacuation warnings out based on the Bureau's forecast and where we are seeing the rain falling. But it's important also that if it is significant rain in a very short period of time, we may go straight to an evacuation order. So we prepare for that. We have communication going out. We're already starting to engage with the communities to let them know what the risks are. So it's really important to keep on top of those messages.
So just a question for Jane. You said that we're expecting is it a month's worth of rain in a single day in some places in the worst affected areas. Do you have any sort of expected rain totals for the worst affected areas over the next few days?
Hundreds of millimetres, I
Right.
would say, yeah.
Yeah.
It's those systems, they're very dangerous. This is a time of year our East Coast low season typically kicks off in about January, February, and then by August it all shifts west of the ranges. And every time I've seen one of these systems, you get that amount of rain.
And Sydney is to be one of the worst affected areas?
Yeah, so it looks like for so the event really, the rain really starts to build tomorrow over the Sydney and the Illawarra, both of those areas, and then it continues in those areas for a few days. So it starts. It's pretty heavy as the system's developing, and then it's looking like most of the computer modelling is going for an east coast low formation, which will build it even more, and it's all around the Sydney Illawarra area. So yeah, it's a dangerous weather system.
And we can't expect it to clear up come Tuesday. You don't know what's going to happen after that.
Oh, it's pretty early days with these systems to make that call this early.
Yeah.
I would say that the rain will continue into Monday and potentially through Tuesday.
Does this have anything to do with, I guess, a hangover of sorts of La Nina, or is there any sort of...
Yeah, so La Nina, there's a few different influences on a climate scale on the weather. So at the moment, La Nina is in a neutral period, but what we do have is some really warm waters sitting off the New South Wales coast, which just adds energy to the systems that form. And we've also got some really warm waters off the Indian Ocean. So La Nina is probably not too much, well, the ENSO, El Nino Southern Oscillations, probably not too much of an impact, but the Indian Ocean's pumping in moisture, and then we've got moisture available because the water's really warm.
It's obviously going to be focused over Sydney and the Illawarra, but Queensland is copying a fair bit of rain as well. Do you have any sort of details as to what's going on there?
Yeah, so the Indian Ocean's been pumping moisture in across Northern Territory and Queensland for a couple of days now. On the whole, they haven't seen too much rain yet, although the northern parts of the Queensland coast did pick up about 100 millimetres. That's pretty normal for North Queensland. They see those totals quite regularly. And the forecast is for really New South Wales to bear the brunt of what's happening around as far as rainfall totals for the next few days, with the caveat that it's rapidly evolving. So I wouldn't be surprised if a few places near the coast see a bit more than what they've seen.
Okay, thanks
Right,
very much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much.
Cheers.
Thank you, guys.